Hello, I thought I'd record a video and try and predict what's going to happen in 2024, right? So, yeah, these are my predictions. I do have a cold in this, that's why I sound ill. To increase your viewing pleasure, I have split this up into categories. They're all viewed on screen. They'll have timestamps as well, so if you want to skip to a certain part and see what I think, then starting with car performance, then I think this will be the order of it. So as you can see, we have the end of 2023 performance versus the start of 2024. I can't see Red Bull changing, to be completely honest. I do believe, with the amount of work though, that Mercedes will jump up to second best car on the grid. You could argue McLaren. I think Ferrari going to fall off a little bit or struggle to keep up with the other two. But yeah. Uh, for the start of 24, I also have Alpine in fifth. Uh, yeah, I just think that's due to Aston Martin dropping off, and I think Williams will be the same. Williams will have a really close fight with Alpine this year, I feel. Aston Martin, I've just said, they're just going to fall off. There's going to be nothing to it. Haas and Alfa Romeo and Sauber are going to be close this year. They were close towards the end of last year. I can't see that changing. None of them are going to have big budgets this year. And then we have AlphaTauri right down at the bottom, who are just sort of. Yeah, it's a tough one with AlphaTauri because you can never tell what they're going to do. Because in 2020, they had a mediocre season, finished, can't remember, ninth or sixth, either one of the two. 2021, they had a really good season. I don't know if that was down to the car, I don't know if that was down to the team, or Pierre Gasly. Definitely wasn't down to Yuki, no offense to Yuki, but in 2021, it was not his finest year. But you can't predict it. Because obviously the strong season in 21, reg change 22, nothing too drastic should happen, but they dropped off quite a lot. We've talked cars, so let's talk rookies for a bit. FP1 sessions this year, there's still two of them, still have to be in both cars. So I'm going to start with Red Bull, do this in Constructors Championship order. Here we go. So for Red Bull, I've chosen Hadjar for both of them. In my mind, this makes sense. I believe they're going to do this. I believe they're going to do it in Abu Dhabi and Mexico again. It's not like they're going to do it on the sprint weekend. It's not like they're going to do it at a road circuit. Hence Abu Dhabi and Mexico. Helmut Marko really likes Hadjar, evidently, even though he's finished lower and is older than Zane Maloney in the championship in F2 last year. He still kept him on over Zane Maloney, which in my mind means he's going to keep him on. And it's Helmut Marko. You don't get a say. I believe Mercedes is going to pull something more similar to what Red Bull did last year, almost switching roles. I believe they're both going to be running Abu Dhabi. And I think, obviously, Vesti, right? That makes sense. But I do think Antonelli might get a shot in an F1 car. They might use Vesti in Mexico as well, instead of this Antonelli Abu Dhabi. But I just think there's too much faith in Antonelli. Well, not too much, it's deserved, obviously. But there's a lot of faith in Antonelli, and they want him in a car as soon as possible because they want him to get that experience. It's very similar to what Behrman's had to do. Moving on to Ferrari now. This one was not difficult per se, but it definitely wasn't the easiest one on here. I felt that they're going to want to keep Schwartzman on, but I feel like now that Behrman's done two sessions in the Haas, and he's done good sessions in the Haas as well, they're going to want to put him into faster machinery, get him used to. I know he's driven the 2021 Ferrari, but they're going to want him to be in that 2023 Ferrari, in my eyes, ready for 2025, ready for the Haas seat then. Whether or not he gets is a different matter, but yeah. Moving on to the boys in papaya now. Palo again, Abu Dhabi. It's just a lot of sense. It's just a perfect fit. I think Bortoleto in Mexico though, F3 champion in 2023, looking good in postseason in F2. brand new to McLaren Academy, very popular driver. They want him in that car as soon as possible. They want to give him the mileage, just so in case, say, Lando Norris or Oscar Piastri are ill, he'll be there. He'll be at the circuit anyway. Obviously, again, Mexico, it makes sense. It's a good circuit for rookies. It's got low speed, high speed, and mid speed. For me, Aston Martin was the easiest one here. They've only got one junior driver. It's Felipe Drogovic. They love him. You got Abu Dhabi, Mexico again. They make the most sense in my head. They might use different ones. However, they're the ones I'm most confident in them using. For Alpine, I've gone slightly different. I've gone Doohan, Zandvoort, Bish Bash Bosch. Zandvoort's also a pretty popular one for FP1 sessions. However, I've gone for Martins in Abu Dhabi. I just feel like he's going to be so good in F2 this year. He's going to have more consistency. He's going to have more pace. He's going to have the AR team fully behind him now because they know him. They know him really well now. So I just feel like using Martins as a rookie driver, it makes so much sense for Alpine. If they don't do it, then I'll be a little bit surprised if I'm completely honest. Moving on to Williams now. There's only two drives eligible for this. O'Sullivan's had one. He had it in Abu Dhabi last year, so I've put in for Zandvoort this year. And I think Colapinto, they like Colapinto a lot, considering they used both drivers in the post-season test in Abu Dhabi. So, in my eyes, it makes sense. I think a lot of teams use Zandvoort because it's, again, it's a very tricky circuit, but it's used on both junior series calendars in F2 and 3. So it might be why it's popular, which is why I've put a couple junior drivers on this list at Zandvoort. Because they'll be at the track anyway, so it's not like they've got to book extra stuff, and it makes sense. For AlphaTauri, I don't think I could have put Hadjar for 4 sessions. That's a little bit excessive. I understand that. So I've put Pepe Marti for Zandvoort or Mexico. Mexico I've stated, Zandvoort I've stated. The reason, however, I've chosen Pepe Marti over someone else is because there isn't really anyone else unless they want to look outside their own F2 project or look at to F2, F3 even, sorry. Pepe Marti is the only other Red Bull Junior in F2 other than Hadjar at the moment. He has proved himself. He's very new to the thing. Red Bull like the drivers they like. Drivers get rewarded at Red Bull, which is why they have the best junior system. However, you do get seat time, but you might not live up to the pressure, which is why Red Bull is so infamous for dropping drivers midway through season or dropping them maybe 2 seasons in and not giving them a proper chance to show themselves. So, yeah, Pepe Marti was my choice. It made sense in my head. For Sauber, I've gone with Teo Porcher. I've put him down for Mexico. Mexico stated. Teo Porcher, he's part of the Sauber Academy. He's done a couple FP1 an FP1 session before. Let's not talk about Mexico previously. I'm not really going to count that. So I think he'll want to have another go at Mexico. But I've chosen Japan here. Now, Japan is not a circuit you see used for junior drives often because there's no support series there. It's sort of, you go for the F1 and you go back home again. But for me, it makes sense for Sauber. Teo Porcher is already in Japan. He's doing Super Formula next year, I think. So he'll already be in Japan. He'll already know the circuit. He'll already know the car. It's just almost a match made in heaven. For Haas, this one was quite simple. I think they're just going to reverse the races that the 2 Ferrari drivers are at. So Behrman will be in Abu Dhabi with Haas, and Schwartzman will be in Mexico with Haas. This makes sense. The Ferrari love Schwartzman. They've put him in the hypercar in WEC this year. Behrman, it's the golden boy almost, I'd say, other than Charles. So this one was just quite an easy one. For surprise of the year, I've gone with 2 names that might not be too shocking to be on surprise of the year. Williams, they've been on surprise of the year for a lot of other content creators probably the last couple years. They've come back strongly, and I don't see that stopping. I see them making another big step forward in 2024. For For driver, I've gone with Yuki Tsunoda. I think, although that AlphaTauri or Racing Bulls car is going to be the worst car on the grid, I still think he's going to have a really good season because his growth curve has been so good that I can't see it slowing down unless he hits some sort of physical barrier or something happens. I can't see Yuki losing performance over the off season. On the other end of the spectrum, I've gone with Aston Martin and Guan Yu Zhou. I say Aston Martin because, like Ferrari, are they going to drop performance? But I've got a feeling Aston Martin are going to drop a lot more performance. They've not made a stride forward since the start of 2023. Now, you'd expect them to do the same again this year. I don't think so. I think Aston Martin's time is running low, to be quite frank. And I think someone like High Tech or someone like Andretti are going to come in and soon take that place. However much money Aston Martin has, there's only so long you can bring a flailing team around the grid before calling it quits. These are the bits you've all been waiting for, I'm sure. For constructors' standings, I think it's going to be Red Bull followed by Mercedes. I think that's going to be a pretty good battle. And I think McLaren will get in there at some point this year. However, I think their battle's going to be more with Ferrari than it will with Mercedes and Red Bull. But I think it's going to be a bit like 2021 with Red Bull and Ferrari. They're going to have a lot of good moments. They're going to have quite a lot of podiums. But there's going to be too much competition with Red Bull and Mercedes. And I think Mercedes, with two, I'd argue, two not two better drivers in the sense that they're better. One of them's better than Max. Well, they're both better than Max because they're not. Max is at the moment the best driver in the world. However, I think they're both significantly better than Checo to the point where it's going to be more or less Max with a little help from Checo versus the Mercedes boys. Yeah. So moving on, we've got Alpine and Williams. I've already said that's going to be a really close battle this year. I think it's mostly going to be Albon, and I think that's where Williams will lose out to Alpine, because Alpine have obviously Pierre Gasly and Esteban Ocon, who are both very consistent and good drivers. I put out Aston Martin in 7th. I've not got a lot of faith. I think age is ever so slightly starting to show in Alonso, and it's just not going to be a good combination when it comes to that, because Alonso's really going to show age when he shows age. I've put Sauber next. I don't know what they're going to be like, so this one was pretty hard to put. I've put them 8th because, well, I mean, they're going to have a stronger season this season. It will be hard not to. But I think the funding in the later half of the season is going to start to show. So, yeah. And then we have AlphaTauri and Haas. The bottom 3 in this table are all going to be very interchangeable towards the end of the season. I think it's going to be very nip and tuck down there. So I've put AlphaTauri as the 9th because I just think Yuki's going to have such a good season. I don't think Daniel Ricciardo's going to have a bad season. I just think Yuki's season will be so much better that it's going to be a significantly noticeable part of AlphaTauri's points haul. I don't think Daniel Ricciardo's really got it in him anymore. I think it's a bit late for him. And at the bottom, I've got Haas. Last this season, I can't see that changing. They don't have the funding. I'd arguably say they don't have the drivers. Yes, they have experience, but they have experience in mid-table at best machinery, which is not really what Haas need right now. Haas need someone like an Alonso or someone like a Bottas to come in, reform the team, show them what front-running teams act like. I think come the end of 2024, this will be what the Drivers' Championship looks like roughly. Don't take my word for it. I'm obviously not, a future seer or whatever. I can't time travel, so this is what I think will happen. So, starting with the order, obviously, we've got Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Sergio Perez, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Oscar Piastri, Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon, Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Valtteri Bottas, Kevin Magnussen, Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, Logan Sargent, Nico Hulkenberg, and Guan Yu Zhou. So, starting with Max Verstappen, he's not losing a championship this year. Unless the Red Bull is awful, which I can't see happening, there's not really a chance he's losing this championship. However, I do think it'll be a lot closer. I don't think it'll be to the point where Hamilton or Russell will challenge him, but I don't think they'll be too far off challenging him. That's why I think Red Bull will win the Constructors mostly off Max's back again. However, Sergio will contribute a bit less this year as well because obviously George and Lewis are going to take a lot more points. Lando and Charles in that order, I think the McLaren's going to be better, and I think that's all it's down to with these two. Lando's a lot more consistent as well. So I think it'll be more Leclerc versus Piastri when it comes to Abu Dhabi than it will be Norris versus Leclerc, because I think Norris will get far ahead and just relax. He'll make less mistakes when he's relaxed. We saw this in 2022 or 2021 when he was ill. Very good at Monaco. Very consistent. Didn't make too many mistakes. Very good results for him. And yeah, so Oscar Piastri, more fighting with Charles. Good McLaren. Still quite young. Still quite inexperienced. Not going to be a rookie anymore, so that's why he's higher than he will be come the end of next year. Carlos Sainz, he had a really good 2024. The only driver other than a Red Bull driver to win a race. But it's tough with Carlos. His seasons are either really good or okay. I think this is going to be an okay year. I can't see him repeating his Singapore magic again. So that's why I've put him where he is. He's going to be a bit of no man's land, a bit like Aston Martin. So, yeah. Alex Albon, he's going to be carrying that Williams team so heavily, which will be why they're anywhere near Alpine this year. Fernando Alonso, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, it's about what you expect them to be. Alonso's going to carry that Aston Martin team to 7th. Lance Stroll will contribute a little bit, but not too much. Valtteri Bottas, he's going to do more or less all the heavy lifting for Aston Martin this season. He's going to get the most of the points. He's going to get the most of the TV coverage, which is why I think Sal will be desperate to keep him come the end of next year. K-Mag is falling off. Old age, not ever really reaching the potential he had. And I think coming back after a year off pretty unexpectedly has affected him. He's coming back. He got the pole in Brazil in 22, obviously, but I don't think that really speaks. It was more of a very lucky situation, but it is what it is. Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo, those to be close. I think Yuki will shock a lot of people by beating Danny Rick. Obviously, he's known the team better now, but Danny Rick's obviously still got that race win, or 7 to his name, in fact. Logan Sargent, Nico Hulkenberg, Guan Yu Zhou. Again, they're all going to be so interchangeable down there because I think 2 or 3 points could be the difference come the end of the season, if that. Because these are not drivers that I think are going to be scoring too many points. So, yeah. Thank you for sticking around. Don't really know what to say here. I guess we'll get better with it with time. I'm going to do an F2 version of this and an F3 version. If I don't have anything else to do come the start of the Frecker season, I'll do a Frecker one as well. But yeah, if you want to stick around, stick around. That's it. Goodbye.